Alrighty, good afternoon. Hi there, Molly. We're going to go ahead and just wait a couple minutes here to go ahead and allow everyone to come in. So Angela, let us know when we're ready.
Looks like we almost have everybody. See a few more popping on. Okay, I think we're ready if you are.
Alrighty, good afternoon. My name is Dana Young. I'm the Preschool Premise Program Manager. I am here with other ELD staff who also are part of our Preschool Promise team. So we'll go ahead and do some quick introductions. Angela, go ahead.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining, especially if you already had your last day of school and you're not already out there on vacation. Angela Stinson, Communication and Engagement Coordinator for Preschool Promise.
Awesome. And then we have some members from our Grants and Ops unit. Meredith, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Meredith Fleming. I am a member of the Grants and Ops team here helping with Preschool Promise. And thanks for joining us. I hope everybody's off to a good start to their summer. I'll pass it up to Anthony.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Anthony Martirano. I work with Meredith on the Grants and Ops team supporting Preschool Promise. Again, welcome, everyone.
Awesome, thank you. And then we have Crystal with our program unit.
Hi, everyone. Crystal Garcia. I'm a program support specialist for the Preschool Promise program.
Awesome. Thank you. And we have a lot of other ELD staff who are part of Preschool Promise with our community systems teams, working with hubs, working with our CCRNRs. And then we have a lot of folks internally who also help with translation. Miriam Amador, you probably have seen her in these meetings as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today's meeting is a pretty low-key meeting. We really want to go ahead and leave it up to like any end of the year questions that you all may have. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Next slide. So as many of you may be aware of, the Preschool Promise request for application RFA is out. It was launched last week. It's only open for 30 days. So it's super important that if you are interested of adding additional slots to your Preschool Promise program, that you apply for the RFA. We wanted to go ahead and make a clarification. If you are not wanting to expand or add additional slots, then you don't do anything. It's just going to be a grant amendment. So there's no need for you to go ahead and apply. We've seen that has created a little bit of confusion, and we've been seeing a lot of questions from current grantees not applying, asking if they need to go ahead and also apply through the RFA, and the answer is no. The RFA is only if you want additional slots or for new applicants. The RFA, just real quick, there are, the cost per child for the RFA will be the same as we had announced last time. We had an increase in our cost per child to $13,650 from the $12,360 that we had this program year. And then there's also a $900 slot for per slot for like transportation enhancement. There are some startups funds available, and it's a per child cost. So it's a $2,000 for any new classrooms and $1,000 for any existing classrooms per child. We are defining a new classroom as a place that has not been used to provide preschool services. So there is a differentiation there. As you all may be aware of, with our RFA request for application, we are being asked that all of you, we really ask you that any questions related to the RFA, go to the sole point of contact on the application. So that's going to be either through email at the PSP RFA at od.oregon.gov, or you can also go ahead and call the 503-508-1609. So you may be in a conversation with Angela or myself, and you're asking questions about the RFA. And while we may know the answer, we will politely redirect you to that to the email or the phone number, And the reason why is because we're going through procurement processes. And as you all may know, like any kind of answers that we provide, we got to make them available to all eligible applicants on the RFA. So just reminder, you don't need to apply if you're not wanting to add any additional thoughts. And all questions will be directed to the main contact there. Next slide. Alrighty, so just a couple like reminders from our last meeting. I just talked to you about like the cost per child and salon enhancement has increased. So while you may still be waiting for your grant amendment, we wanted to go ahead and make that available to you so you can go ahead and start doing some budget planning in some of those pieces. We also, starting July 1st, we have new insurance requirements. I think one of the main differences there is that now there is a specific insurance requirement for home-based providers in one of the insurance requirements there for abuse and molestation. So just keep an eye on that. That starts on Friday, because July is here already. So there you go. Next slide. Alrighty, so I'm going to turn it over to Angela to go ahead and talk about this poll that we want to talk to you guys about.
Sure. And actually, we're going to do our poll a little bit differently because Zoom doesn't allow you to write-in options. And we decided we would really prefer to just kind of leave this wide open. And this is a question in two parts. One is, thinking about fall. One of our, internally, one of our continuous quality improvement goals is to think about onboarding each year. How do we make sure everybody is set up for success early? So thinking about what you would really like a refresher on or more information on next program year, the start of next program year, so fall 2022. What would be beneficial for us to cover as part of onboarding for you? And then thinking back so long ago in 2020 or earlier, if you've been with us for longer, what was the most helpful thing that you learned early on, or what would have been helpful? You wish you had it earlier in their onboarding process when you were new to Preschool Promise. So if you could just take a minute, and we'll pause for a moment, and if you could share with us in the chat the answer to one or both of these questions, that'll be so helpful as we, as a team, kind of revisit our onboarding goals and expectations, make a plan for early fall.
And just real quick, I know that we have some CCRNRs and Hub staff on the meeting. Please feel free to go ahead and also chime in as well. Thank you.
Can I say something? Or do you want it in the chat box?
Ideally in the chat, if you don't mind. It helps us capture it and revisit it later. Thanks, Tammy and Lauren and Rose. Really appreciate you guys' feedback. So for those that may be listening to this recording later, some common themes we're seeing are budgeting help, training requirements, just a general open Q&A session and an ability to talk to somebody in one-on-one and not just email, which we know is a continual challenge with a group as large as ours, but great feedback. Information about referring children to ECSC, budget help. So thank you. If you think of other things throughout the meeting, please feel free to chime in at any time. Really appreciate your feedback. Okay. Dana, would you like, I didn't know if you wanted to go through this or if you'd like me to.
I can talk a little bit about it, and then if you can go through it. So one of the last reports that we have is our end of the year report. Throughout the year, we tested this process of where you were submitting information like each quarter. So the end of the year report, great news, is not as like long and big as it has been for like the previous years. But this is still a report that we're finding some opportunities with our grantees, like getting the report submitted like on time. So we wanted to go ahead and take some time during this meeting to go ahead and walk through that review through the end of the year report and have you just kind of go through it. Crystal here, she's actually working as you're submitting your reports in, like she's actually reviewing some of the information. So you may get some updates and say like, hey, not really sure about this question. Can you go ahead and like elaborate a little bit more? There may be some missing information. So this report is like super important because it really just tells us like where were the services, you know, that were provided for Preschool Promise, the number of children, did we meet some of those deliverables as far as like conferences and assessments and some of those pieces. So super important. Then there's also on June 23rd, there was a Gov delivery that gave you the list of all like the questions for you to go ahead and get ready and some of the other supporting materials. So I'm gonna turn it over to Angela to take you through the end of the year report.
Sure. Yeah. So just to piggyback on that, some of the support materials. So we did provide a full list of the questions in English and Spanish. There's also a worksheet document. It's not anything that you need to fill out. It's really just a tool to help you kind of check your math as you're going through the report. One area that we get flagged by our data and research team is like, gosh, they said there were 20 children in this classroom, but there's, 17 children identifying as a boy, and there's 14. How does that add up to 20 kids? So just some help as far as like how the tables should look. And then there is also a tips and tricks document. Jotform has gotten a little more slick since last year, thankfully, but it's still helpful to kind of look through that and make sure that any common troubleshooting topics you can check out ahead of time. I'm going to click on this link and hopefully Zoom will come with me here. So quick check, Dana, can you see the Preschool Promise end of year report? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So the main thing I want to point out is when you start this, if you go through, and my computer doesn't love doing a meeting and a report at the same time, but if you hit save here, you can I'm going to say continue with draft. It will ask you if you want to create an account or if you'd like to save without creating an account. If you do not need to create an account to save your work, what you will do is just ask it to send you a link, and that link will take you back to your form as far as you've gotten in it up to that point. So as you go through, if you'd like to revisit, so now you should be able to see get shareable link. That's also helpful if you are someone who's collaborating with other colleagues to complete the report. You can use the same link to complete the form. Similar to last year, the Jotform has different tabs for different topics. It is important as you go through to do the tabs in order because new questions populate on different tabs based on what you've put in earlier tabs. So if you said in tab number 2, I have 3 classrooms, then on the classroom tab, there will be a space for you to input information about each of those classrooms. So just something to note, try not to bounce ahead from tab to tab because it is frustrating when you think you're done, but because of information that you've put on a separate tab, a new question has populated. So as much as possible, if you can go through, tab by tab and complete it before moving on. you'll find that much more helpful. Other things to note, if you need to change the language, you just go up here, drop down to Spanish, jot form, let us do our own translation and put it in for us. So all the information is available in Spanish as well. As always, if you have any questions as you're moving through this, please don't hesitate to reach out. For those of you that are new to the end of the year report, just a reminder, this report covers every preschool promise child you've served, even if it was just for one day. So it's not a reflection of your classroom as it is right now, it's cumulative. So from the start of your program to the end of your program, every child that spent at least one day in your program. I think those are all my big pointers for now. I'll move back to the presentation.
And just given, like, normally, like, this report is due by July 15, just given all the, all the stuff that you'll need to do with, like, the RFA and the close-up processes and some of those items, we've extended the deadline to the end of July. So we've extended the deadline, but definitely, like, don't wait too long to go ahead and get it completed, because then once you submit it, then that closes all of the required reports for this program year. There's still one of the reports that we're having some challenges is the one that we requested for all of our grantees to submit back in November, which I believe it was the staff, where you needed to go ahead and submit the Excel sheet with a lot of information. So I want to go ahead and add a plug here on that report. We're still working through some grantees that are still needing to go ahead and give us some information on that. That report is, like, super important because it informs a lot of the stuff that we do with Preschool Promise, but then there's also, like, this NEO report that we need to submit that are publicly funded program submit. So please, if you did receive an update request talking about the report, or you're not really sure how to fill it out, please go ahead and connect with us and we can schedule some time, because we definitely need to go ahead and get that submitted. One piece that informs is, like, our salary requirements, right? Or education requirements, which also helps us, like, figure out, like, okay, so how much funding do we need to go ahead and do? If that helps with any kind of incentives, we need to go ahead and, like, get that, because it really does allow us to go ahead and make important decisions about our programming. So more to come on that, but my understanding from Jaya, who's leading that part of the process, is that there was a lot of update requests that went out, because we're still, and we'll go ahead and we look forward to go ahead and like improving that process, because we have come to find out that Excel sheet process may have not worked as easily as we thought it was going to. So I do want to add a disclaimer that we are trying to go ahead and figure that out, because that was a little confusing. Okay, next slide. Alrighty, so one of the things, and I was looking at the chat messages, lots of great suggestions there. Like, we have our Preschool Promise Quality Requirements Playbook. We had a late start and a late launch with this one. It launched, like, on January of 2022. So it's, like, super important that all of your staff, as people are getting orientations or new hires or something's going on with your program, please make sure that you have the Preschool Promise Quality Requirements Playbook. Super important for us as we start, like, the next program year, and you continue working with our, CCRNRs and getting technical assistance and support. Like, this is really the document that can say, what does Preschool Promise look like in practice, right? So lots of great work. So there's a great guide for you and your staff to really, like, ensure that you are meeting our Preschool Promise quality requirements as a Preschool Promise grantee. All of our CCRNRs have been trained on this playbook. So if you have any questions, you're not really sure what you're reading there, please go ahead and connect with your local child care resource and referral. But it's a really nice piece because it gives you what's the requirement, what does it look like in practice, and how is it connected to Spark, right? What kind of, like, Spark section are you completing by doing this requirement, which, as all of you guys are aware of, you guys are required to participate in Spark. So please make sure that if you don't have access to it yet, that you actually get that downloaded, get it printed, and make sure that it's definitely front and center for your Preschool Promise programming. Now, Anthony, you had your hand up, so I wasn't sure if you were wanting to share something with the group.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one additional note as it relates to the end of the year. And it's really just a strong encouragement and or reminder that failure to submit your end of the year report by the due date end of July very well may delay your grant amendment of being processed and executed. So just as a friendly encouragement and reminder, go ahead and get that in as early as possible to not have your amendment delayed.
Thank you. Next slide. Alrighty. Go ahead, Angela.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know I'm noticing that we have, you know, a smaller crew, and I'm wondering if we want to try and do, like raise of hands and just speak out loud Q&A, or if we want to use the chat like our normal practice. Do you have a preference?
I think it's a small group. I say let's go ahead and use the hand option there. Thank you.
So any questions?
And we can stop sharing if you want, so then we can see, at least for me.
Marie, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. I have been asking for the I forgot the form, continuum form, and I haven't got it. So I'm just wondering if there's a due date, so I don't have, you know, to be just waiting for it, or
Are
if
you
I'm not gonna get it or something.
Are you talking about the amendment? Because there's no continuation application this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought everybody will receive one, and I was just thinking about it. Because I received an email saying that everything was fine with me and my insurance was approved and everything. But I thought I will receive something else, like another form.
No, great question, Maria. There is no application. So if you got that email that says you're good to go, then you're good to go right now. We're just waiting for the DOJ to go ahead and finalize the review of that of the grant amendment. And then, you know, as with all of our Preschool Promise documents, it gets sent for translation, and then you go ahead and start seeing those go ahead and come in. So as we get closer to that day, we'll go ahead and communicate with you all, but there is no application for continuation. You just, and then also like for those grantees that may have had to may have not met like one of the thresholds or something, we've communicated with you all. You should have received communication as far as like decisions on that. So if you have any questions on that, let us know. So once again, no need to apply for the RFA to continue current service slots. And then there's no like application like there was last year for you to let us know like, yes, I want to continue. We do want to know if for some reason you don't want to continue. Like that's super important, especially as we're going through our RFA process. We understand that life happens, maybe something, unfortunately, we've received some requests from some grantees that they may want to go ahead and take a break, right, from Preschool Promise. Unfortunately, we're not able to go ahead and do that because the grant ends on June 30th. It ends tomorrow. But if for some reason you're not able to go ahead and you don't want to continue for whatever reason, you do need to send an official email letting us know of that. Alrighty, and then we have Tammy.
Well, basically same question, just do we have an estimated date for the agreements to get here? I mean, are we talking July? Are we talking August? Are we talking September?
That's a great question. I don't have an exact date other than we're working really hard to go ahead and get that out as soon as possible to go ahead and avoid any kind of delays. So we'll continue informing you. Well, the end of the program year may be ending. We're still going to continue sending you all like of delivery emails. So please keep an eye on your emails and stuff. But unfortunately, we don't have a date, but we are working to get that out soon.
And then Rochelle, did you still have your question?
Yeah, thank you. I submitted our monthly report after the last day of school, so June, 17th or 18th. And on the schedule of all the monthly reports, it said to expect some additional supplemental questions regarding grantee satisfaction. But when I was doing the report, there weren't additional ones. So I'm wondering if my question is, did I do it too early and I missed like an update? Should I go back and look at it again, or is that just going to be tacked onto the grantee satisfaction? Is that just in the end of the year report?
Great question. So no, you didn't miss anything. There wasn't, that information is going to be added to the end of the year report. So super important. Please do take the time to go ahead. There's going to be a section at the end of the year report that talks about your satisfaction. Like, how are we doing? Where can we improve? How are local services working for you, and some of those pieces. So end of the year report.
Anyone else? Oh, Denise asked, if a program had no school days in June, should they still submit a June report?
That is a good question. I'm gonna go ahead and probably lean on my grants and ops. I don't know if Anthony is still on the call, or Meredith. I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, because we'll need to go ahead and track that you submitted all of your reports for the program year. But I'm also being very humble here. Also asking if grants and ops agrees with that, because they're checking like, are all the reports in, so then we can release funding. Meredith?
Yeah, I would agree that you would still need to fill it out. And if you didn't have any children, you would indicate 0 on those questions.
Thank you.
I have a question about the RFA on new schools versus it was $2,000 for new schools, $1,000 for existing schools. Does that mean a new classroom that's already in a program?
Great. Actually, this question I think will, well, no, because we provided the information here. So when I was talking about that cost per child, that's for new classrooms. So it's the differentiation whether that classroom was used for preschool services before or not connected whether you were a new grantee or an existing grantee. So it's really very much about like just the classroom space within that site. Thank you.
And then Rihanna?
I'm sorry, I don't know how my hand got raised. I'm good. I'll lower it.
Is there somebody else borrowing? Because I see two Rihannas. Okay.
Oh, you know what? I shared a link. Maybe somebody else is on logged as me. Sorry.
No problem. I just want to give that person a chance since they were technically next.
Angela, it's Autumn. I did
Autumn.
offer. I'm on vacation and I did off Rihanna, so maybe that's what's showing up.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a question. I know that we've asked a couple different times. I don't know if this is the right time to ask, but I know that we had talked to you guys about the people with 12 expanding. I don't want to waste my time doing the application if that's not going to happen. And we haven't heard anything. I know there's been a couple providers asking.
So yeah, go ahead, Angela.
I was gonna say, are you asking if there's like a limit, like a cap on?
Well, before you guys, we had talked to you guys about, well, I don't know if you were in that conversation, Dana, you were in that conversation, Gwen, about you guys, the state wasn't really allowing family childcare that had 12 slots expanding to 16. And so we've never got any input back about that. And so all of the providers, family childcare providers that are at 12 wanting to expand to 16, we don't want to waste our time doing the application if it's still going to be a no. But you guys have never given that answer back to us.
Yeah, totally. So because this is a very RFA question, this will need to go through the RFA, but I do know that and I hope that you guys all understand, because everything has to go through like this whole point of contact, as far as like this question. So I'm wondering, like,
Well, we've
we'll
asked this question several different times before this RFA
Yeah,
even came out.
totally. Yeah,
So I don't understand why it's
yeah,
I mean, it's a
totally.
discussion the state should have had by now and given us an answer by now.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just to jump in a little bit, I think the tricky timeline issue is like the RFA required DOJ approval, and now that it's open, we're extremely limited in what we're allowed to comment on. But I just encourage you to review the RFA content, and then if that response isn't clear, then reach out to the PSP RFA email.
Okay.
So who's making the decisions for the PSP RFA?
So program unit grants, and I'm like ELD makes it. Autumn, right now what's going on is that because like procurement is to go ahead and capture all of those questions, we're not able to go ahead and like answer that question right now, because this is not like the RFA like webinar. Tomorrow during the RFA webinar, when that meeting has been available to everybody, then we can go to answer. So I know it sounds, and my apologies if it sounds really like tricky, like you guys know the answer, like why can you answer it? But right now we're very restricted about like how we answer like RFA questions, because like the RFA is open right now. So one thing that we can go ahead and do is like we can go ahead and forward this question to the RFA, so then it can go ahead and get answered. And then tomorrow during like our RFA webinar, then that question can be answered. And the reason why is it sounds a little bit like, what's the answer to that question? But it's because whenever we as state employees are answering this question, like we need to make it available to everybody. And right now this meeting was scheduled to be a current grantee meeting for Preschool Promise. It was not an RFA like webinar meeting like the one that we're going to have tomorrow, which I hope you all can join there. But I want to go ahead and say like, Adam, like we have taken a lot of like through our workings with the RFA, I would say that we have been very responsive through a lot of the feedback, including some of this feedback that you've given, as far as like what are some of the challenges when we put caps. So know that we were very intentional on the RFA to go ahead and like look into some of this feedback and how it is impacting some of our grantees. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mary has her hand up next.
Okay, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to word this, so I hope it's clear what I'm asking. If our slots that we have right now are just going to be an amendment to our grant, if we're applying for additional slots, will that all just, and if we get those, will that all just be added on to that amended grant, or will we have an amended grant and then a new grant for? As far as time frame goes, will that all happen at the same time? Because I know, like for the RFA, we're not, I think I saw on the thing, we're not supposed to find out until like August 21st or something. So will that all coincide for existing grantees who are wanting additional slots, or will it be more like two separate things?
That's a great question. That's a very current grantee question. That is
Okay,
like,
good.
okay, what's going to happen? And I hope that you guys can understand kind of like situations, very kind of intricate point. It's going to be a little bit challenging just because the timelines are not aligning. Does that make sense? So like for like Preschool Promise current grantees, we've got to go ahead and get some of this grant amendments out, right? I did see Anthony unmute himself, so we'll go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, so to answer that question, so what will likely look like is for an amendment, which is there for 1 year plus dollars if he is going to apply for expansion, aka additional slots. In this scenario, it would not be an additional grant agreement, it would be an additional amendment. So you would likely see 2 amendments. And ideally, depending on how the timing, if the timing were to work out, there may be a possibility where we're able to roll both 1 amendment versus 2 amendments. But irregardless, it would be an amendment. It would not be a separate agreement. Does that help?
You were cutting off there a little bit, but what I heard Anthony say is that for current grantees who may get some additional slots, that will be an amendment. So we're doing an amendment on your current grant so you can continue. And then should there be some additional slots awarded, there will be an amendment to the current amendment there.
Okay. Rihanna, is it?
Yeah, it is me this time.
Go for it.
I mean, my question was kind of like in that same thing. But first, before I forget, I just wanted to check in, like with what Autumn was just asking about, Dana. I know that I asked you the same question that you forwarded onto the RFA for me. That was about a week ago, and I haven't heard back. So that was kind of one thing I was wondering is, do you think that after tomorrow they'll be getting back to people, or is that about how long I should wait to hear back, or should I email a new email? I don't know. So
thank you, Rihanna. So a little bit on that, like with this RFA, what I understand from the sole point of contact or single point of contact that we have on the RFA is that she is replying to some of the questions as they come in, depending, or she's going to go, or all of the questions are going to go ahead and get published. And there's like a published day on the RFA, which I don't remember what day it is. So like I can know that answer has already been received, and there is like a question that has already been drafted. It's just a matter of getting that out. As far as like tomorrow for our RFA webinar, we are intending of doing like an open RFA, like kind of Q&A session. So I will
okay.
we will go ahead and get that answer tomorrow. So I apologize because you've gone through the right process, and thank you for understanding that to forward that question to our single point of contact. But yeah, so that
I just didn't know maybe if it got forward and if it got missed or how it was. So it sounds like some will be answered one-on-one and then some will get posted. And then my other question is kind of piggybacking on the next person who spoke. Will our hubs get the ability to start processing our enrollment on our current students that are, for our continuing, or will they be held up and waiting for the decision on our RFA application? Have you guys talked about that at all?
And you're talking about like new slots, not the current slots.
No, like my current slot. So like, because my region is going to do a priority-based point system and a lottery based off of the number of kids in that pool. And historically, for the last couple of years, that hasn't been happening till like literally like the week before I'm opening class, which doesn't really give me enough time to get everything in place with those families. And so this year I was thinking, oh, that'll be great to just have this smooth continuation, and then maybe enrollment could be processed sooner. But then I thought, well, wait a minute, are they going to have to wait till they get a decision on those RFAs before they can process enrollment? So I didn't know if you guys had talked about that yet or not.
Yeah, tricky it's the timelines. I'll go ahead and our timeline for like continuation and RFA are quite not like in sync. So there is communication that's going to go out to the hubs. Like I'm working with Crystal there to go ahead and send a memo out to the hubs as far as like what does that look like. In previous year, what has been done is that a hub can tentatively place a child in a program, but from like the hub's point of view, like they're also waiting like, hey, when are those grant amendments out? And are they ready for signature? So that was done like at the direction of ELD that said like, hey, you cannot like place a child on a preschool promise grantee until we have a fully executed agreement. We are in communications with procurement as far as like, can we place a child with, given the delay of the agreement. So in other words, we're working with that through our procurement office and just kind of kind of figure out how to streamline that process. As far as like, but in previous years, what we've done is like a tentatively placement of that of the kiddos into the program. So, but we are working with procurement to go ahead and just kind of figure that piece out, because that was the direction from the ELD. Is like you cannot like place the children until we have a fully executed agreement. Hence, it goes back to like where we're really working really hard to go ahead and get the grant amendment out, because we know that it really does has that great impact, like for you, for like the HUS or CZRNRs, and then know that we're still going to go ahead and have that expansion too, right? And the timelines are just not going to be as insane. Kind of very similar to what Anthony's saying, is like, well, we're going to have to do an amendment on the amendment if you get more slots. So.
Well, you know, if when you guys are working on that, you could just hold that in mind, that would be great. Because if I'm sure everybody feels that way. If the slots that everyone's just continuing moving forward with, if at least the hubs could move forward with that, that really helps us get started out for a successful school year.
Absolutely. Yeah, know that is like a top priority to go ahead and say, hey, can we go ahead and like provide more guidance, and like, can they just place a child? What can we do on that? So we're looking into that. Thank you. Alrighty, and then I don't know, it's the same name, but I don't know if Autumn, if you have another question.
No, I don't.
Okay. Any other questions? Ready? Well, looks like we don't have any other questions. So thank you all for everything that you've done. This program year, when it's been challenging, and even with our timelines right now, things still are challenging, but thank you for everything that you'll do for our kiddos there. And, you know, it looks like we have more kiddos going into kindergarten. And then we have some more kiddos coming into the program with our expansion. So thank you very much for all your continuous support with Preschool Promise.